Now that you've completed putting all your inventory items into Aspect and you've started doing invoices and inventory counts, you're also ready to start entering in your recipes. Entering in your recipes will allow Aspect to calculate what's called a theoretical food cost. Essentially, every time you ring up an item, it will subtract that information from your inventory, therefore telling you what you're supposed to have on hand, and then you can compare that to what you actually have on hand and be able to track your waste. To get started, you would want to go to Inventory, and you would want to come down here to Edit Recipes, allowing this to open to your recipe database. Now, the recipe database is created from an import from your point of sale system. What happens is, in your POS or point of sale system, every key that a server might hit has its own unique number, and that number is imported over to Aspect along with the name. So, for example, you might know that on your point of sale system, key number 535, or ribeye sandwich, has a menu number of 535. So whatever recipe you put in here will be subtracted out of your inventory. For example, looking at the bacon cheddar burger up above it, you can see that all of these items together subtract from their inventory. So every time this key is hit, it would subtract 2 pieces of bacon, a hamburger patty, all these different ingredients. You also know that you sell it for $7.99, so this particular item runs at 29.54% food cost. And once again, all of these items are subtracted from your inventory. Now, where I like to typically get started when I train people is to get them started in their bar. The reason for that is because most bar recipes are very simplistic, and it gets you a good foundation to start building more complicated recipes. So to get started, we will scroll down until I find a couple bar items. So if you look here to get started, domestic bottle, Budweiser. So this key needs to have Budweiser in there. So you simply double click on the item, opening up the template. Choose Insert, and what pops up is an ingredient list. This ingredient list is generated from every single item that you purchase from within Aspect. So you find the item, and then you determine the quantity that every time this key is hit, what do you sell? Well, beer is very simple. You sell 1 bottle. So you add that in. That is all that you typically sell when you sell a Budweiser. So that recipe is completed. It sells for $2.40. There's your cost of goods. Once again, double click on the next item or the item that you're supposed to. Simply choose Insert. You can type to find the items faster. 1 bottle. And that's all that you need to do. Notice that I didn't mess with anything up above here. The reason is the name imports and the group imports and the menu number imports all from the point of sale system. On items that have a menu number, you are 99.9% of the time always going to leave the gross yield and serving size 1 serving to 1 serving. The only time that you'll mess with this up here is when you're creating a batch recipe or a sub recipe, which will be a recipe within a recipe. And we'll go over that in another clip. To continue forward, let's look at some examples of draft beer. So here's another example. You can see Bud Light here needs to be entered in. Same procedure. I double click and hit Insert. This item is another version, and I'm not going to use those. We would scroll down to Keg, and we would say Bud Light Keg. How many fluid ounces do we serve when this key is hit? It already even says 10 fluid ounces. Bear in mind, it's very important that when you're working fluid ounces, you stay with fluid ounces. That is volume. Ounces or weight. So you want to keep those things separate. So you keep 10 fluid ounces. That recipe is now complete. One last group that we can go to, or a couple. Here's another one. We could look at liquor. As you can see with liquor, this has got Absolut vodka, 1.5 fluid ounces. There's your pour. If, for example, if, for example, the conversion pops up, you would simply answer the conversion. So if it didn't know that a liter was 1.5, if an aspect didn't know that 1.5 fluid ounces and how many ounces were in a liter, the conversion would pop up. You'd simply answer the question. Moving down to wine, if it's down here, let's see if I can find any wine. I had a couple examples. Here we go. So, for example, a glass here, or a bottle of Grigio, really just like the bottled beer. You would pick your Pinot Grigio, one bottle, and there's your cost. Very simple. And then if you were selling a glass, you pick the same wine, assuming you pour the same wine by the glass. And you would put in 6 fluid ounces. So there are 3 or more examples of how to start doing your bar recipes. If you're looking for drinks, Alabama Slammer, for example, you could see this as an example. 0.25 Amaretto, half ounce grenadine, and so on. In the next clip, we will go over batch recipes and some of the food